Hey everybody. I got a question recently about pre-production. I thought, wow, what a fantastic question. I just wanted to do a video answering that question. Namely, it was, what is pre-production? Do we have to do it, and how do you do it? I thought, that's perfect. Okay, this is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about in the context of audio recording, but this is something that, was a major step to making professional audio recordings back in the day. Now, you still do it today, by the way, although the format has changed a bit. Here's the deal: if you are recording an album or a song or anything like that, and it's purely for artistic reasons, you're just being creative and you just want to do your thing, then it's fine. You don't need to do pre-production. Okay, pre-production only applies when you are producing something that you expect to make money. So it's within a sort of business type recording. Back in the day, it used to cost a lot of money and take a lot of effort to produce good audio recordings like albums and singles and things. And in the 90s and the 2000s, I produced quite a few recordings that were later promoted to commercial radio, especially rock radio. And you absolutely needed to do pre-production because your recording was expected to directly or indirectly make money. That was the whole point. It offset the cost of recording. It was like an investment in a recording because the recording was then going to go out and make money. In order to do that, it had to, fit certain requirements. So, for example, let's just talk about rock radio back in the day, and these requirements, I believe, pretty much almost all of them are still in effect today. So, for example, when you promoted something to rock radio, there were very strict length requirements, and I remember it was 3.5 minutes hard stop. So 3 minutes and 30 seconds. If you presented a radio single that was like 4 minutes or something like that, they would not play it. No matter how good it was, no matter how people liked it, they would not play it. It was just a requirement of their format, at least for smaller acts. And so you had to make sure that whatever you produced, was 3.5 minutes or less. It was just that simple. And so, for example, knowing something like that is really useful when you go into the studio and you're arranging your song, you're structuring it, you're dealing with instrumentation. That stuff is very important to take into account before you've actually recorded anything. Another example of that is for a mechanical requirement, a technical requirement, was that if you had a hook in your song, like maybe a chorus or something, it had to come in before 1 minute into the song. That was a mechanical requirement that they had. And, it was very important that you did that. Another thing, for example, is that, the genre was the right genre. So you couldn't take a pop single and promote it to rock radio and so on. It was very important that it was very clearly within the genre for that radio station's listening audience. So those are like technical requirements, and there were actually a bunch more of those too. So you can imagine that, like, thinking about this stuff before you make your recording is probably very damn useful, right? There were other requirements too. Like, for example, there were things that were best practices that you could do that are above and beyond. For example, lyrics. If you were writing a song, you wanted to make sure that the lyrics would speak to people. So if you had a single or something, the lyrics were something that the audience was drawn to. Also, if you could do this was actually really good. If you could have some kind of sonic signature where when people heard it, they could uniquely identify the song as your song. So the sound of an instrument or some special effect or something like that, if you could work that into the recording, that also gave it an edge. Other things like, for example, the song had to be representative of your audience. So you could have a good song. Let's say it was a pop song. The problem is that pop song was the promotional tool for a rock artist, So it didn't really do you much good because people who liked the single, when they checked out the artist, they wouldn't like the artist because the rest of the artist's repertoire was a different genre than the thing they liked, right? So there were issues of that stuff, and whether it fit the image of the artist. Like if you had a song that you sounded like Mariah Carey, but when you looked at the artist, they looked like the Sex Pistols. So you had to think about that stuff ahead of time, or it would cause problems later. And obviously, if you had some kind of hook, some kind of catchy thing that grabbed people on first listen, that was the big thing. It's not enough to have a good song, but if you have a good song that strikes people as good on first listen, then that was something that you really sought after. So these are examples of the things that you would think through in pre-production. You would adjust what you were going to do accordingly to try and have as much of this kind of stuff met as possible, because later on, after you produce your recording, you then have to use it for something, and it's a matter of not thinking one step ahead, but thinking like 3 steps ahead. What are you going to do with the thing that you get? What's its purpose? And how is it going to be successful? So that was the idea of pre-production. And you would work with the producer, like myself, or you would work with, you'd sometimes work with people that were songwriters and things that could come in and help. But that was the idea. So that's, in a nutshell, what pre-production is. And hopefully you found this useful. If you have any more questions, let me know, or you'd like me to talk about anything else, let me know, and we can certainly get into it. Thanks, guys. Take care.